Hi, my name's Ian Corrigan, and as part of the ongoing videos from Rossendale Rapid Fire Shooting School, I'm going to address frequently asked questions that I see on the forums, on the safety courses, and at the club of what is the best shotgun to buy. It's a very frequently asked question, and I think it's important that we do look at it. The issue we have in asking questions such as these on open forums and Facebook groups is that you're likely to get responses based on people's personal preferences, not necessarily an objective view on what is the best gun for the sport. Also, it could be a case that these individuals aren't even shooting the sport to the level that you might want to. Also, it could be a situation where you've got individuals who are biased in their opinion because they may actually sell a certain brand of firearm. So it's almost like walking into a BMW dealership and asking them what's the best car to buy. You're going to hear all day, every day that the BMW is the best gun for your choice, even though it may not be what you actually want. So working on the criteria that you're going to be shooting competitions, this is UK PSA IPSC competitions, perhaps NRA Shotgun League, 4 Islands or 3 gun, then you're more than likely wanting a gun that's going to allow you to shoot quickly. I've never seen anybody come on a forum or Facebook and say, what's the worst gun I can buy? So people don't want to be hindered by the actual firearm choice. So let's quickly remind ourselves what practical shotguns are actually for. Well, they're for shooting practical shotgun stages. Now here we have a very simple stage. It has 8 steel targets at the top right hand corner with a no shoot, and we have 4 clays, and the targets have to be shot from the shooting area. That in itself is not actually very complicated. It's not a case that you won't be able to hit the targets, especially as you've got a belt full of ammunition. If you do miss, you can reload. So the real challenge here is time, and that is what we're looking for in a shotgun, a gun that we can shoot and reload fast. So what is it that makes a practical shotgun fast? Well, to make life easier for you, I've put together a little list of criteria that you should consider when buying your first gun. So here's my list of things you need to look out for. Now, they're not necessarily in the order you might personally prioritise them, but that's my priority. So number 1, it's comfort and fit. If the gun doesn't fit you well, you're not going to shoot it quickly, you're not going to shoot it straight. You do want to look for guns that are adjustable and adaptable. So the ones that you can take the stock off, fit shims, you can add additional butt pads to, perhaps can take a pistol grip if you want, or can take different stocks entirely. That's very, very important. The second thing is you need to have a minimum magazine capacity of 8+1. If the gun doesn't have that, then you're pretty much on a bit of a dead end. The ability to take different magazine extensions, such as the Nordic tubes, which are a very popular brand of extension tubes, come in lots and lots of different sizes. That's very, very helpful if your gun is a gun that is compatible with the Nordic range, or there are alternative lengths available. A real priority for any practical shooter is ease of loading, and I'm going to show you that later in a video, and what's a good, easy to load gun and a not so good one. Reliability is absolutely essential. Usually the higher the quality of the gun, usually the more expensive it is, the more reliable they do tend to be, but ask people about reliability. Availability of go faster bits is always very important, so we'll cover that in a second. Ease of modification, some guns lend themselves to be easily modified, some don't. Ease of repair and parts, again the bigger brands are better known for those sorts of parts, easier to get. And then finally, for me, it's price. If it's meeting all of those criteria, then price is a secondary function. However, for some people, that could be the be-all and end-all. Assuming that you found a gun that you like the look of and it fits well, then what exactly do I mean by ease of loading? And that's a little bit of a subjective question, really, because what is or is not easy to load depends on the individual. However, I've got a little demonstration here of 2 different guns, 2 different pump action shotguns, of which I own myself, that can demonstrate the difference between an easy to load gun and a not so easy to load gun. This is a Mossberg. It's not been modified at all, it's just as is, and it's again as a training gun. That's good to show people that they can just buy a gun and they can shoot, and not a lot to worry about. But if you look to put 2 rounds in, so that's a 2-up load, I just grabbed 2 off my belt, pushing it down and in, the actual shape of the lifter actually catches the rounds there, so you've got to put it quite far forward like so and then push in. It's not quite so easy. Not that it can't be done, it's just a little bit tighter to go in, and of course as this is a section 2 I'm not putting any more in there. If I was to sort of do an over shoulder load, and load with my right hand, it's pretty much the same issue really, is that you've got that quite tight loading port and you've got to kind of push through. So it's the fact that the lifter is this shape, and also the fact that the loading port's quite tight. Now you could open it up, but actually there's not an awful lot of opening up to be done here because of the shape of the gun. And because of the sort of style of it, it's also, don't forget, this is made out of metal, so it's going to involve a bit of filing. That's actually the trigger group here, so you're not really going to want to take an awful lot off there. You could take some off the edges, yeah, sure, I'll give you that. And you could cut some out along this area here, but that's pretty much the end of the tube, so there's only so much you can do with a gun like that. Now let me show you the Supernova, and you can really see the difference between a 3.5 inch chamber loading port with the Benelli when it's being opened up versus a 2 3/4 chamber shotgun of the Mossberg. You can really see a big difference in the rounds there, and if I just pop one of my patented dummy rounds that I got off my friend Dave, you can see that the round sort of fits in quite easily there, obviously, but it fits in very, very easily there. Okay, so if you look at the size of the Supernova's loading port, it's considerably larger. If you take 2 rounds, you just lie them in that loading port, you can see that they naturally want to go into the gun. I mean, they can fit in 2 quite easily. A gentle pressure on the rear just pushes them in. So load 2 is very easy. Load 4 is just as easy, and that's really what it's all about, having a very large loading port that is unrestricted and stops the rounds, you know, nothing to stop the rounds from just naturally sliding into position there.
So that was my gun. Here we have a stock Benelli M2 on the right hand side, and the same gun that's been opened up. You can see it's much larger loading port. Here we've got an M2 again, but from the side with a much deeper cut on it to show that so it will allow the thumb to push forward on that quad load. Here we have a Taran Tactical Benelli M2, very deep cut there. Again, just simply to make it easier to load. You can see it's been cut at the front, and even this particular gun here, which is an SX2, a bit of a home adaptation of the gun, allowing it to be easier to load. So for those of you looking at semi-autos, of which there are lots of different choices, you do want to have a nice smooth loading port. You want to probably modify it a little bit to remove a little bit away from the fore end, so you can move your rounds past it in a quad load. And also you may want to TIG weld or have filled the lifter. That also helps you to not trap your finger. Large bolt handle, large release buttons, those sorts of things are all very helpful for making your gun a little bit more ergonomically friendly and easier and faster to load. Now there are lots of different shotgun brands out there. This particular little display here has just got lots of different types of shotguns, not necessarily ones that are suitable for practical shooting, because they don't necessarily make pump actions and semi-autos. However, as with most things in life, you'll find that the more expensive brand usually has better made firearms, and therefore the parts are better, they're more reliable, and they last better. Also, the bigger brands tend to have a good support structure, so if something needs repairing, it's easier to get it fixed and repaired. Another price factor to consider is that pump actions are often quite a lot cheaper than semi-autos, simply because they have less parts in them and they're easier to manufacture. As an example, my Benelli Supernova, which is a pump action, cost me £550, as opposed to the equivalent semi-auto, which would be a Benelli M2, is currently retailing at about £1,100, £1,200. So quite a big difference in price there, and it's worth considering that if you are on a budget. A final price related factor you might want to consider is that buying a second-hand big brand gun may be better economy than buying a brand new cheaper brand gun, as the reliability and quality is inherent within the brand and the parts are more available, and it can often serve you a little bit better in the future. Worth considering at least. So hopefully you found this video of use. As any of you who have seen my posts on forums or groups will know, I'm very much a proponent of objective-based criteria, so evidence that you can see for yourself and evaluate for yourself, as opposed to listening to people's personal views and personal feelings, perhaps justifications on why they bought their shotgun, even though that may not have any relevance to why you would want to buy your shotgun. So hopefully you now have a little bit of a better idea. If you've got any questions, feel free to message us on Facebook. or get in contact. I'm more than happy to help. Or alternatively, come along to one of our matches, have a look at what other people are shooting, have a look at their guns, and make a more informed decision. Thanks for listening.